Hi everyone. I want to take a minute to thank all of you before we even get started, because I know it's not easy to put yourself out there. It's not easy to go on camera. It's not easy to share our story, and it's not easy to share the struggles that we have as parents, even though we all have them, and we have these conversations behind closed doors and over bottles and bottles of wine. But it's not easy to do it publicly. And so I really do want to commend you before we even get started, because I can assure you, what I do for a living and the amount of people that I meet every day, you are going to help so many people because you are giving hope. And I think I would go back to where you guys were at one point, where you sat in your bedrooms and you cried, and what are we going to do with our what do we do, and that sense of hopelessness. And that's what we're gathered here today to help people on the other side of that camera. So I'm going to introduce everybody, and we're going to get right into it. We are at Arrowsmith School in Peterborough, and I have the principal beside me, so he's going to keep me in check, right, Rob?
Absolutely.
Rob, what's your last name?
Gunning.
Gunning?
Yes.
So do I have to call you Mr. Gunning for this?
No.
You sure?
Yeah, you're okay.
Okay, that's great. So you're going to keep me in check and give a little bit of background on the type of school Arrowsmith is, if you can.
Absolutely. So Arrowsmith is a school that works with children with learning difficulties. Okay. We start with an assessment process to identify where their weaknesses are cognitively, and then we design and create a program for them that they're able to work on these underlying weak cognitive functions to strengthen them, and then go back to whichever school they want to without accommodations, modifications, and extra help.
It's amazing, and we have another interview, if you haven't seen it, with Barbara Arrowsmith, who's the creator and founder of this whole program, where we don't work around the learning difficulty.
Yeah.
We actually strengthen the part of the brain
Head on.
and change the brain.
That's
so
right.
that these kids, in my opinion, the most fundamental part of all of this is building the confidence in knowing their self-worth, that
Absolutely.
they are capable of whatever the heck they want to do.
That's the outcome. Again,
Yeah.
we're a result-based school. So we're here to get those results for those kids. That's our main priority.
So who better to talk about this than the actual parents who had to make these tough choices to do this? So we're going to go around and I'll introduce you. So we have Max's parents here. So we have Sean and Lisa. And then we have Michelle, Garrett's mom. I'm Michelle, I'm a mom, but nobody here at this school. Rob. Ashley is Cassidy's mom. I'm going to say Milena, and you are Emiliano's. He corrected me already. Emiliano's mom.
Emiliano's mom.
And David, you are really a different in all of this too, because you are a student here. You have a son here whose name is Seamus, and you're actually a former teacher as well, an educator.
I am.
Yes. So lots of diversity here in terms of talking about this. I just had an opportunity to go into the classroom, and the kids got to meet Barbara. And I'm going to go over to you, Ashley, because Cassidy was fangirling. Almost kind of shut down to meet Barbara. And it was the sweetest, most powerful moment for her to meet this woman that I think, and I get teary thinking about it, because a child who can look at an adult who's achieved so much and say, oh, I can do it too.
Yeah.
How old is Cassidy?
Cassidy's 10, and it's been her dream since she started here to meet Barbara. So she was really excited to say thank you to her, and I think she just completely shut down in there and couldn't form any words. But
I think we all have that one person that we would do that with.
She was totally starstruck. But
tell us Cassidy's journey to here, when you sort of had to make the decision.
It's for 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago. We went through all the psychoeducational assessments, a big sense of hopelessness at the end of it all on what do we do now. I went to the Learning Disability Association to find out they had shut down. So I sat in my car and cried. And then actually I went to Facebook. That was kind of where I turned to, and just vented, and it was sort of a cry for help and a cry for everybody. And then a friend of mine actually sent me a message, and they had a friend whose son had come here. And so then I was like, what do we have to lose? So I called and talked to Rob, and kind of the rest is history, I guess. But
do you all sort of have that same undercurrent of what do we have to lose?
Yes, absolutely.
Michelle's like, yes. So you have 2 children here.
Yes, yeah.
And tell us who they were and who they are now.
completely different children, that's for sure. So it started, Garrett, sort of similar to Cassidy. He's 11, so he started 2 years ago, and after his psychological assessment, he had a very severe learning disability, like less than the first percentile. So kind of that meeting where you sit down and you feel like almost he's been given a death sentence in a way. He's never going to come up to his peers. He's always going to be challenged. We'll just try to get him, into, applied in high school. And you're thinking, okay, how can this be true? Like, how can I accept that this is my son's future?
When you see it's so different.
Exactly. He's so brilliant. He's so brilliant. He's so creative. Most people that would have a conversation with my son would think, wow, he's really intelligent because he asks questions and he's inquisitive. But he had this severe reading writing disability that he just, in grade 3, he was in the Empower Reading program, and his reading level stayed pretty much the same the entire year, even with all that one-on-one help. He just wasn't coming ahead. So we decided, we'd had a friend who their son was here and they had seen a remarkable difference, and I thought too, like, we have to try. We have to give Garrett, the ability to, to be able to learn to read and write. And
was his self-confidence suffering?
It was starting to. I mean, anyone who knows Garrett, he's a very upbeat, funny kid, but he really, probably at grade 2, he started to notice that he was different than the other kids. Like, he couldn't copy work down, like he couldn't do what they were doing. So he started to kind of shut down in the classroom. He would be funny, like that would be his coping mechanism. He would joke and he would be funny, and that was his way to cope with it, but it was really starting to affect his self-esteem.
How long from the time he started here did you start to see true change?
Oh, probably just in a few months. Like, his confidence had completely changed. Like, when he came here, what they do is they put them at their level, so they start feeling confident right away. Like, look at, I've accomplished this, I can do this. So they put them back to their math level that they're in, their language level. So, they start making gains quickly. And the exercises that they do, they can do them. So they feel like, wow, I can do this. And so, if they're willing to come and work hard, and both Garrett and Emma, my 2 children, have amazing work ethics, and they come and they want to work hard, and they love the school right away, which was amazing. Like, they loved it. They were like, no way, I don't want to go back to my other school. But I mean, my situation with Emma is a little bit different. We already had Garrett here first, and Emma actually was in high school when we discovered that Emma had some challenges with math and language, and she had the testing done through TAS. She was at TAS, and I decided that I wanted her tested at Arrowsmith because I found the testing so informative, even almost more so than the psych ed.
Yes.
So, yeah,
they're all just like, yes,
so
I love
I found
it.
that the assessment was, so I didn't even actually worry with Emma about getting the psych ed. Now, TAS she was on the list to get one done with TAS, but I was just so impressed already with the school. This was only Garrett being here for the first semester, and yeah, I had her assessed, and then the school's testing came back, and the school's testing and Rob's testing were right on par with her math levels, everything kind of, so it was just more clear, like just more saying, wow, this is amazing. The testing came back, bang on. So I just pulled her right out of TAS and signed her out. I was like, yeah, she has to come here. I can't do this for one child and not do this for Emma, because Emma's confidence was so low, like she was feeling like she wasn't smart, and yet I knew Emma had all these abilities as well, right? And I didn't want her to take this wrong path in high school, because she was feeling like she wasn't smart enough to do.
You hit a big nail on the head, right? That's often what happens.
Yeah.
I see you too. Sean's just like, yes, yes.
I mean, it's the theme, and there's so many parallels listening to everybody's story, right? For our son Max, I can think back, the lack of confidence, and he's a really confident kid. So just some of his abilities to process information, just struggling. He was just struggling in the school system that he was at, and it was a great school. So it was just a reality of us learning about what he was struggling with and what he was challenged with, and trying to find a path to finding Arrowsmith. Really, we didn't know how to find what that solution was.
I love what you said there. He was in a great school. And I think that's a big thing to address, right? They're doing the best they can with the resources they have.
Yeah.
But
It just wasn't working for him. That's all.
Absolutely.
that's a big part. And you have 2 kids. I mean, that's another thing
Yeah.
to talk about. Your other child isn't here.
No.
And was that ever, did you ever want, I mean, Michelle put her other child, she has 4, but you put,
4.
Did you ever feel like you needed
Olivia's thriving where she is, and it's working at this point. So she's
How long has Max been here?
a year and 3 months. He started
Yeah.
in March of last year, part-time. So Arrowsmith was gracious to have him do a hybrid. And that was wonderful in a sense. He came back from his spend a day and he was like glowing. I can actually read a clock, Mom. I know how to tell time from the visit, right? It was like, oh my gosh. And I did. I literally just said, this is it. But we needed to get him. He's that personality. We needed to do a hybrid. And that was a little bit difficult for him because he had to stay on top of work. So it created a little bit more angst for him because he wanted to be here and he knew what he was getting here. To your point, it's like achievable, measurable, achievable mastery, and that also.
Can I ask you if you did have this, and if anyone here has this, to speak up, but I don't want to pull them from their friends. I don't want to be in another school. I'm worried about what people will think. I'm worried about, did any of you struggle with that?
Yeah, I think if you're honest about it, I mean, I think that we still do in a way, and not the struggle part, it's more to do with, he misses his friends. He misses the social aspect of the friends he had at the other school. But in his heart, he really knows what's happening here. So that's the anchor in terms of why we are here and continue to be here. Like, he's changed so much this year in a positive manner. It's amazing.
Remarkable.
It is remarkable. So
happy for
it
you.
wasn't, it had nothing to do with any stigma as it relates to what we think or what we would care about what other people think. You do anything for your kids, right?
That's an understatement, isn't it?
Right, like you do absolutely anything, and Arrowsmith has just provided something that I wish all families and all kids, struggling with the things that our son struggles with, had the ability to take advantage of, right? So the social side is the social side. I mean, he's got his whole life, to be social. This is just a small blip.
And does he do sports outside of?
Oh yeah, like so.
That's what I mean. I feel like that's another
he's got
component
so much
too.
going on, and this is just an important investment in helping him be successful
His
in life,
brain,
right?
His brain.
And they get it. Once they come here, they get it. I mean, why they're here. Yes, exactly.
Confidence, self-esteem, it's a massive area of improvement for him anyways. And I think that when I'm hearing all these stories and when I've always read and listened, we all share the same thing. These kids, there's this inner suffering, right? And if without that being addressed, it's just gonna get heavier and heavier as they get older.
It's a funny thing because as humans, I feel like we just want to fit in. And I recently did this big rant on my Facebook about EQ8O testing and how diminishing a kid's, it's the most dangerous thing we can do because we literally just chip away at their confidence, and that's what creates mentally unhealthy adults. And this one parent commented, and I love healthy discussion. You don't have to always agree with me. I might fight with you, but you don't always have to agree with me. But they said, and it's an interesting conversation starter because it's that coddling that you're saying that doesn't give our children the grit they need to be successful. What about when they get to university, and what about this and that? And I see their point. I understand that grit is literally is what makes people successful. But when you are pushing somebody who's not ready, it's like trying to force a flower to bloom before they're ready. And we all bloom at this. We all bloom.
Everybody's different. We all have
Yes.
our time.
And so I think healthy stress is a really important undercurrent. I want to go to you, David, for a minute, because I think you're a really interesting situation, because I think we so often as parents see ourselves in our children, and you're like, wow, I struggled with that too, but I didn't know I struggled with that because nobody had any language, or, you know, we get better with each generation, I think. So you, obviously, you're attending here, and your son. So
Well, there are two reasons for that. The first reason is I recognized early on, probably 30 years ago, that cognitively there were challenges that I was facing that in the social world it appeared that other people didn't face. Curiously, I came through the doors of Barbara's Arrowsmith School on Yorkville down in Toronto 30 years ago, did the assessment at that time, and walked away as a consequence of shame and nothing else. Not at that time having the cognitive capacity to understand the power of the technology. But it's very, very easy to overlook your own needs. But when you become a parent, you respond very, very differently. So we were living in Asia. I had a career that I was very, very happy with, and a business that was doing reasonably well in Asia, and was comfortable with my life there. Our son then went to junior kindergarten in Taipei, and within fairly short order, we started to notice changes in his personality for the worse. Mostly a sort of a hair trigger temper, and an absolute terror about facing any challenge that required intellectual effort. By the end of grade 2, he could not read, write in either English or Chinese. And in that particular educational system, both the culture and the structure, because I was a teacher in the public school system in Taipei, isn't structured to either culturally or practically to address concerns for children with profound learning disabilities. And as a parent, I was able to recognize some of my son's behaviors based on my own personal experiences. So when I came back to Canada, I thought to myself, well, I'll attend as well. And the reason for that was that I had my teacher certificate from Australia, and I needed to apply for my Ontario College of Teachers certification, and that takes time. So I thought, well, now's a time to kill two birds with one stone. For me personally, the cognitive changes has made situations like this much more easy to navigate, because in my particular case, weaknesses in predicative speech, it would have been difficult for me to carry on this conversation in a free-flowing way, because I would have had to practice or rehearse what I was going to say in order to communicate effectively, which is obviously, as you can tell, I think reasonably no longer a challenge for me.
Tell us how you feel, David.
There'll be no. I'm going to be open, but I will quickly address the changes that I saw in my son, because this is not just about my experience. I think this is about parents who are in a very desperate circumstance, wondering what options are there in what it seems to be an array of limitations.
No choice.
Of no choice whatsoever. So I spent a lot of time on Skype talking to Rob about what we would expect in terms of the changes that Seamus would demonstrate over a period of time. And he was very specific. We expect to see this change by this point and that change by this point. So the changes that we saw in Seamus, of course, in Asia, where meritocracy is taken to the extreme, those that aren't on the fortunate end of the intellectual spectrum are socially castigated, and people with learning disabilities traditionally are very adept at determining who is going to not give them the time of day, because it's socially acceptable not to suffer fools gladly. So they get very good at avoiding situations in which they will encounter shame, which is not a productive component of learning, of being able to learn effectively. So with Seamus in particular, Rob had said, well, the first thing we're probably going to see is a change in his trust in the authority figures or his educators. He would see a teacher before we entered the main doors of school in grade 2 in Taipei, and he would run away from the classroom. We couldn't actually get him. He would scream at the doors. So his first challenge here was believing that Rob and I'm not casting aspersions with this, Rob was as advertised, are you sincere? Are you really here to help me, or is this just a ploy? And that cynicism, even at a young age, it was clearly developed in Seamus's case. So about 2 months in, I noticed that he became able to approach his teachers if he had a challenge, be it social, academic, or intellectual. By about April, which Rob had predicted almost to the day, we would see an evolution in his social aptitude and skills. He would look down, and not just a consequence of the cultural context, of course. He would look down and he would run away from people and he would avoid social situations because he simply didn't have the confidence. And by about April, we had a turning point in which he crossed the street to a neighbor on a Saturday morning, extended his hand and said, "Good morning." And my neighbor almost had a coronary because he traditionally would run away from adults because he simply didn't trust them. By the summer of his first year, then we started to notice his capacity to organize his day became more effective. His ability to communicate clearly began to crystallize. And I think most fundamentally, he began to look at challenges, be they intellectual or athletic, and enunciate, I don't feel confident that I can do this, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Wow.
And
That's huge.
I think that's a part of something that Peterborough Arrowsmith has put great effort in creating a pedagogical component that I assume is deliberate. I've never asked you. In creating an understanding of the growth mindset. And it is so, it has profound implications because it not only gives a person like my son hope, it also begins to create a structural framework from which he can say, I don't understand how to do this now, but if I seek out the right resources and commit myself fully to the task, I think over time I can acquire the skill. And that in itself is the seed of success. And if he can maintain that attitude, any additional work that he does here at Arrowsmith will only give him increased cognitive strengths in order to build upon that confidence to face challenges unabated.
It's, you know what, you touched on a huge point, the articulation factor of what's inside, right? I always said to my kids, I can't see what you're thinking. But then it's like, yeah, but I can't tell you what I'm thinking because I don't know how. Is that your bell?
It's okay.
Recess is over.
Yeah.
Say your name for me again.
Magdalena.
I know, I keep thinking of your son and Magdalena.
Emiliano.
Yeah, and I said Emiliano, and he's like, no, it's Emiliano.
Yes.
And I was like, all right. How old is Emiliano?
Emiliano is 11.
And he's been here for how long?
He's finishing his 3-year program this June, yeah.
You have an interesting story too.
Yeah, we moved here just to come for Arrowsmith. And I don't
Moved
regret
from
it.
where?
From Europe, from Switzerland. I'm from Mexico. My husband is Swiss. And I found the school online. I said, let's go. Yep. Never regret it. The best decision, yes.
Why?
Emiliano couldn't even do 2 + 2. Sorry.
No, I'm recognizing. It's just recognition.
2 months here, difference. Yes.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry.
Sorry.
No,
Never
it's,
get much.
you know what, we all share, we're parents, right? You just want the best thing for your kid, and you know what they're capable of, and they're just not,
We all different. We learn at different time. And yeah, you have to give them the best. Why we have to keep them here if they can be here? And that's what Arrowsmith is about.
All kids want to succeed. They all want to do really well. We're just being able to have the tools to provide them with that success. So we talk about confidence. It's about real confidence, not at somebody coming and saying, hey, you did a great job. Maybe that student needs that. They're seeing it in the program themselves, the growth. They're able to measure it on their own. They're able to reflect, I'm doing really well.
Yes.
And that is what we're all really looking for. It's great that they can acquire the curriculum, they can acquire these skills, but it's about actually becoming the people that they want to become. And that's the most important thing. When they transition, I am this new person, this metamorphosis of becoming someone new. It actually happens here.
It's a brilliant way to put it, because I can tell you till you're blue in the face that, you know, you're this or that, but until you believe it because you've actually done it,
Yes.
Exactly.
you can't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's incredible. It's very
Yes,
powerful.
Emiliano came the first day to spend a day, and he said, "This is my school. I don't want to go anywhere else." Super happy. He never wants to miss a day of school here, no matter what. Even if he's sick, he wants to come to school. He knows, he used to tell me, why do I have to struggle? But now he knows, okay, I'm going to struggle, but I'm going to work, and I know I can get it. And he knows what he has been through, right? So he's ready to go back to the regular school. We're going to miss this school so much. But the best decision for all those parents that have their kids with any problem, any difficulty, it doesn't have to be many or a lot. Maybe just a little bit of reading, math, or confidence. My child is so shy. There's something, and there's no such thing as my kid is not smart enough, or my kid dumb. No, if there's always something that you can help the kid to with therapy or Arrowsmith in that case, and they're gonna thrive. There's no such thing as, no, my kid is not smart enough. We all smart in different ways. We're all different. You just have to give them the push, and that's Arrowsmith. Yeah. It's not just another private school, not at all.
No. We don't
So-
want to keep them. We want to keep them
That's
just
an
until they're,
interesting,
you
but
know.
that's a
Yes.
really interesting point. You're literally setting them back up for success. And I go back to what you said, Sean, where you're like, the social part, you got a whole life for that, but your brain needs to be developed for you to be successful. And that seems like what you've done here.
And what's an investment? All of the parents here have made an investment into their child that is going to pay dividends, not just in high school, not just college, university, in life. Relationships, getting along with others at work, being able to feel successful about your work, having confidence to grow and to do more. It's going to keep building. The more that they're able to use these areas, the stronger that they're going to get.
So we have to have the elephant in the room discussion, because money.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it costs money to come here.
Absolutely.
And if you guys are open to sharing this kind of, you would have had to sit down, I'm sure, all of you, unless you're Bill Gates, I don't know, but to have this discussion of the money, and it's not always there. And I'm going to start with you, Ashley. Like, it must have been a huge decision.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a huge decision. I mean, I work part-time in a salon. I don't make tons of money, but it was, we'll figure out a way to do it, and we'll figure out a way to do it as long as we need to. So, you know, we might not renovate our kitchen. We'll, you know, put that on the back burner, and because more importantly is her education. So, and yeah.
I couldn't agree more with that. Yeah, it's, you know, it goes back to that. You'll do anything for your kid, for kids, for your family, and you'll find a way.
Yeah.
You know, you want to see your kids grow up to be healthy, you know, they love themselves, they're confident in who they are, they have a growth mindset, right? They truly believe that they can achieve anything and everything, and that's always been our hope.
It's a philosophy of life as well.
Yeah.
You know, like, we will do anything, but we have high expectations that we're giving you this, and you're taking it on. So,
taking
like
it
you said
serious.
to Emiliano, just swallows it up. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what we want for them as well. That there is no boundaries. You can reach your potential, and we're there. We're gonna guide you the best we can.
What a statement you make to your children, and the commitment you have to them too.
That's what I mean.
That's-
I think all of
It's
the parents.
everybody, every family. There's all these parallel stories.
And you take the shame walls down as well, because I think I remember the moment somebody said, well, what about Arrowsmith? And I remember saying, well, I didn't even know, really. And I'm like, yeah, no. And then it just literally hit me. And then I had a conversation with Rob, and I'm like, absolutely. And it's also that piece of you, that shame piece of you that knows your own struggles and then you were like, oh no, I don't want this struggle for my kid. I just don't.
You
But
just want them to fit in.
and it's reality.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, okay, what am I going to do? And the piece of this Peterborough Arrowsmith that I love is the teachers and the staff. I mean, really and truly, you coach the children to have a growth mindset, to believe that they can do it. They go back door. They take each child for who they are, knowing each child is so unique. And I think that's special.
And it's important because as a staff, we recognize the sacrifices that parents make. We recognize that this isn't a school of every parent is affluent and this is an easy thing for them to do. So as a staff, we're giving our lunch hours to create clubs. This school used to be more of a brain academy, and now fast forward into the future, we have student council, we have dance club, we have drama club, we have yearbook club. We have all these things that these kids can experience in a typical school, but in a smaller, environment, and they get confidence here, and then we want them to go to high school and to join a drama club, to join a play, to experience more, not just the academics of school, but everything else beyond it, because it's so important. It's the experience of education, right? So we're starting that here, again, planting that seed, allowing it to bloom in another environment. We love to hear back. Our students come back all the time and tell us of all their successes, and that's so special, and that's motivating. That's fuel for our staff to know every little thing that we've done has, paid off, being paid forward, right? So it's really important.
I think it's what I hear in all of this is it's like it's a very tailored tutoring specialized that actually has science behind it to give you concrete deliverables to actually make your child learn to use a part of their brain that everyone else in the other system has worked around.
Well, we've been doing this for 40 years, right? So it's been quite a long time, but now we're gaining recognition as neuroplasticity is more recognized in society, right? But this has been going on for a long time, and we're continuing to make change. And again, we're trying to be public. We see the Arrowsmith program in every public school all across the world. We want to really cut down that barrier and make it accessible. This is where we are right now. And we're very privileged to be working with the kids that we work with, but we want to really have a larger impact.
And that's the truth, right? Like, that's something we need to talk about too. Like, if parents want to go and advocate, I know there's so many people on the other side of this camera right now. They're like, how do I get this? How do I get access to this? And you want this into the public school system.
Absolutely.
So it'd be programming within the school. They wouldn't actually physically come to a school, but you want the programming
They would
within
never
the school.
have to leave their home school. All of the kids here could have been able to stay at their own school, stay with their friends. We recognize how important the social is, but have the Arrowsmith program at the same time. One classroom could be designated as an Arrowsmith classroom.
How do we do it?
So there's an advocacy page on our website that parents can go at, and they can get all the information on how to become an advocate in their area, in their community.
Okay, I'm going home. Can I be like a bajillion advocates?
We would love you to be that.
I'm on it.
Absolutely.
And you're going to help me be a bajillion because we need to change this. And I'll say it 1,000 times over. And David and I were talking before the camera rolled. If we don't have mentally healthy children, we don't have mentally healthy adults. And that is the foundation for so many problems in our entire society. So education and confidence, this is critical. We need to do something about this, and we can. And I don't think our hands are tied.
In our particular case, just to speak to the fear that parents might have in determining whether or not attending the school is worth the risk, I'll just briefly tell you a little bit about our experience. In order for us to, bearing the financial component, initially we were terrified to enroll Seamus in the school because I had a career that I loved and had to give up. I had to sell my business, sell my home. I had to repatriate from a country that I was living in for 20 years and come back essentially as a 50-year-old and face the challenges of a young professional of 26 or 27 because I don't have any regional teaching experience. My wife also gave up her teaching career, which at the time was thriving. Given all those sacrifices and the uncertainties that as a couple recently repatriated to Canada will face, I would say we think that the sacrifices that we have made as extreme as they are in my particular case, have been worth it. And if I was asked, would you do it again? The answer would be a resounding and confident yes. And I just want to say one other thing. As a teacher, I recall when I was doing my grad degree in Australia that student teachers would have this imaginary discussion about having that one moment with a student in which your contribution to them fundamentally changed the course of history for them for the better. And I had said to Matt, my instructor, Matt Coppins, I must say, you really do have, it may not practically be the case, but in my view as an outsider, you really do have a dream job. Because how many teachers can say they fundamentally change the course of the direction of someone's life? Not for 1 or 2 students every 5 or 10 years in the classroom, but for every student that walks through the door every year, year after year.
Well, you convinced me, honestly. And I'm going to ask you guys to do this before we sign off. I can't thank you enough again for this. I truly believe you. Imagine you had an opportunity to watch this video when you were in your hopeless state. I'm going to ask you if you can think of a word to describe your child before Arrowsmith and a word to describe your child after Arrowsmith. And I'll give you a minute, and then I'll start with, I'm going to start with Sean and Lisa, no pressure.
Can I use more than one word?
Sure.
What's
Lisa's
that?
like, you can do this.
I mean, for me, it's lacking confidence and absolutely, flowering. I mean, nothing's perfect, but just flowering in confidence. Another one was really feeling stupid, and that feeling of intelligence and hope is.
I can do it.
I can do it. Yeah.
I can. Not I can.
So more than one word. I apologize.
Michelle?
Emma, I would say for Emma, she had a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. And now, I just can't tell you how different. Like, she's only been here a year and a half, was able to breeze through this program. Has done amazing. She has so much confidence now. Like, she's just, registered to go in the IB program at Kenner. And it's so exciting. Like, she feels like she can do it. When she started and they assessed her, she was at grade 5 math, and she's doing online academic grade 10 math right now and has an 80% average. So, back to the money, like, it was totally worth the investment, because this, she went in for this interview and she's like, my parents have really invested in my brain. And she wants to challenge her. She wants to go forward challenging herself. So completely different girl.
What about Garrett?
Garrett, I would say he felt inadequate. Like he couldn't measure up, to the expectations. And now he has so much confidence. Like, it's completely different child too. He has a little bit farther to come than Emma. His severity of learning disability was a lot greater, but back to the math thing that you were saying, Garrett was the same. He couldn't understand the concept of adding 1 or 2 to a number. Like, that was such a struggle for him. But see, it targets the cognitive area that, his brain's changed now. So now we're doing mental math questions. I'm doing 2-digit, adding and subtracting in the car with him, and he's doing it almost as fast as me.
Are you just driving like?
And I'm like, where did this come from that he can do these things? And Garrett struggled so much with memory. Like, one of his largest deficits was his all areas of his memory. But they've targeted those areas that needed fixed.
I really love your smile.
It
says a lot.
Yeah, it's so exciting.
Says a lot.
It's and it's a struggle, right? Financially, it's a struggle, but it's so worth the investment if you can do it. But I do wish that it was in schools for everyone to have access, because I know some people just financially can't, and I would love to see it available to more children.
I'm going to go to you now, Ashley, of the word before and after for Cassidy.
Okay. Before, very similar to everything you guys have said. She's always been a pretty happy kid, but she definitely felt like she wasn't good enough in school. She knew she had a fantastic support group of peers, but she had to go to them for everything. Even at birthday parties, she'd get her friend to come sit beside her to read the birthday card to her. So that was kind of where she was before. Now, I mean, she's still happy. She's still a typically happy kid, but she's now confident,
yeah.
happy. Like she knows she can do it, and just that she is good enough, and that she is able to do it. I look at the signs. It always kind of catches my eye, the Dare to Dream, and I feel like Arrowsmith gave us the ability to dare to dream again about her
talent
future.
show last week,
Her
last
talent
year.
show last year, yeah. She
did ballet.
She got up on stage by herself, did a ballet dance that she made up herself, rehearsed herself, and there was no way she would have done that before. And from that, she joined ballet this year and is in the recital in 2 weeks. And so.
Before we go to you, I just want to touch on this because you brought up a point that I think I feel in this room. And I always say, you don't know what you don't know as a parent. So I have 3 children. One is an academic rock star in the traditional system, and 2 that are not. And parents often are quick to judge. You should discipline differently. You should do this and you should do that, when they don't know what they don't know. And if you don't have a child who struggles or hasn't struggled, it's easy to project your own thoughts. And what I feel like in this community as well, and it's a big component, is that you guys genuinely feel truly supported and safe in sharing your child's struggles and journey, because you don't feel that sense of judgment. And I think that's really powerful as well. Because I know that it's a big hurdle for a lot of parents to go through that. And would you agree with that?
Yes, definitely.
Because I just see you look at her and be like, yeah, when she did
Yeah, I
that.
remember.
Yes.
You celebrate.
Yes.
It's you're celebrating each other, and I love that. It's really
Yeah, Emiliano confidence. Oh my gosh, self-esteem. Yeah.
So yeah,
Amazing.
your words before.
He was trapped. I mean, always misunderstood. They will think, oh, this kid that cannot behave, and he's just misunderstood, and it's horrible for the family, for him, right? And now he's free. He's a winner. So trapped before, now it's a winner.
I could just come over and just gobble you up because you have no idea how much that.
I always cry for everything.
So do
everything.
I. But that resonates so greatly with
Yes.
me, because stress behavior and misbehavior are so different. And don't ever judge a child's behavior. Look at the reason behind it. And
It's
so
finding the root.
Yes, there's always something.
misunderstood. What a brilliant term.
Arrowsmith finds the root. It doesn't just go, oh, here's the IEP, and here's, oh, we'll give you extra time for a test, and maybe you need a computer. No, they're not. It's like, let's wipe it away
Yeah.
and go directly to that part of the brain.
We're building a cognitive foundation for life.
I need to come here.
Hey, absolutely. Absolutely.
David, let's wrap up with you. Before and afterward.
Well, Seamus has gone from hopeless and helpless to hopeful and capable. And the degree to which I hold gratitude for the staff here is beyond words. The effect has been profound, and I feel, I hope this isn't a trigger word for people, but I feel enormously blessed that we've had an opportunity to take advantage of these extraordinarily skilled people, because they've made a remarkable difference for my son.
Well, I'm all emotional. Thank you. The greatest gift and we can give our children is the capacity to believe in who they are. And all we truly want as parents is for our children to be happy and see what we all see in them. You know, if we could only imagine we could give our children the lens through which we see them. And I think what I'm hearing is you see it and I can tell you, and I love what you said, I can tell you till you're blue in the face what I see. But until you truly believe that, it doesn't click. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to Rob, my videographer, whose arm is going to fall off because we were going to have a 2-minute conversation and it turned into a wee bit longer. I'm so excited for all of your children and I can't wait to see them change the world. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.